Peace and good and greetings once again from the Shrine of St. Anthony here in Ellicott City, Maryland. And we're continuing this kind of ongoing series of reflections upon some of the readings that you'll be hearing on this coming Sunday. And last week we looked at the second reading, and I'd like to continue with that because it actually generated some interest, it seems. And again, the book of James is such a powerfully Catholic, if you will, letter. It really is a great explication of the Catholic tradition, if you will. So let's listen to the reading, and then we can consider what it might mean. From the letter of James. My brothers and sisters, show no partiality as you adhere to the faith in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ. For if a man with gold rings and fine clothes comes into your assembly, and a poor person in shabby clothes also comes in, and you pay attention to the one wearing the fine clothes, and say, sit here, please, while you say to the poor one, stand there, or sit at my feet, have you not made distinctions among yourselves and become judges with evil designs? Listen, my beloved brothers and sisters. Did not God choose those who are poor in the world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom that he promised to those who love him? We often look at our world and our church community in these times and maybe see it disrupted. We might see it as being in conflict at times and divided and confused at times even. But there's nothing new about that really. If you look at the early history of the church, there was a continuous string of issues that came up that nobody had thought of before. And it's like, well, what do we do about this? And what do we do about this? And the scriptures, passages give us some clues about this. So for example, very early on, there was the question, well, if a Gentile wants to become a Christian, do they have to become a Jew first? And after some dispute, some arguing even, you might say, different practices in different places, the apostles come together and decide, no, you don't have to become a Jew to become a Christian. We also read in the Acts of the Apostles about how in the earliest days, when the community would come together, the Greek-speaking people were complaining that they weren't getting their fair share at the table, right? And the apostles say, no, we need people to kind of do this, and created the ministry of what today we would call the deacon. And today in James, we see another area clearly of conflict in the early church, right? And one that continues to be an issue today, even one might say, right? There are people become Christians and they're from all demographics, right? There are rich people, there are poor people, right? And it seems that, at least in this community, the rich people are getting treated differently than the poor people, right? Again, it kind of makes sense. If you're building up a church, right, and you see rich people coming towards you, you're likely to give them maybe perhaps more attention. As James says, have you not made distinctions among yourselves and become judges with evil designs, right? It's kind of tempting when people with wealth come to the door and want to help and become a part of your movement. This had clearly become an issue, and James responds to this, right? And tells them, did not God choose those who are poor in the world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom that he promised to those who love him? My brothers and sisters, show no partiality. There's an important thing for us to reflect upon. Yes, in our community there are people who are, in the eyes of the world, rich, right? Have many goods, many things, many blessings. And there are people within our community, if you will, right, who are poor, in some parts of the world desperately poor, people who suffer abject poverty, right? The word is show no partiality. We are all one community. And in fact, as he says, James, did not God choose those who are poor in the world to be rich in faith? This is an important thing to reflect upon for all of us, right? Because in a certain sense, all of us are poor. That's the great insight of Francis of Assisi. Francis did not put poverty on a pedestal in the sense of as it's better than being rich. That was not his point. He never chastised, he never judged, was critical towards those who were rich. But for him, that idea of not possessing anything, which is what the words that he uses, right, is a reminder to him of a deeper spiritual reality, that all of us are spiritually poor, right? All the blessings, all the good gifts we have, all the graces we receive are gifts. Nothing that we have earned, nothing that we can say is mine. All these things are given freely by God. And even just the simple good gifts of the earth, right? Food, the fabrics and things that we make our clothing out of, right? The rain that comes down that waters the crops, right? All these things are gifts from God. All these things have been given to us freely, right? The challenge, of course, for us to look at that lack of equality, if you will, in the distribution of goods, well, there's something to reflect upon. Certainly there is corruption in our world in some parts of the world, where the poor don't receive what is their due because of corruption and such. But the point, though, is that all of us are ultimately poor. Everything we have is a gift, right? And if we can own that, if we can see the world through that lens, then it changes the way we see the world. Because to be poor in spirit is to have faith, right? It's no coincidence that the Lord chose in the first disciples relatively unlearned, working people, you might say. The first apostles, these fishermen, not very well educated, but people who worked for a living, right? Who lived kind of a hand-to-mouth experience, right? And who probably had a greater sense of trust in God's providence than the rich man might have, right? They are the model for us, right? That awareness that we are all poor in spirit. And again, if we can own that, then that is the path of faith. And that is the way to the kingdom, right? Did not God choose those who are poor in the world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom, right? This is the way to the kingdom that he promised to those who love him. What does that mean? Think back to last week, and this is the great theme of the letter of James, where he calls this community who he's writing to be not merely hearers of the word, but doers of the word. It's in that way that we truly love God. And in that, and we will share perhaps our goods. We will be generous to others, right? But we can only do that if we realize and have a deep spiritual sense that everything is a gift. We thank the Lord for all the good gifts that we have received, all the blessings, even in difficult times. We're grateful to the Lord for those gifts. We seek to be given a greater gift of faith and trust that God will provide for us through all the moments of life. Before we conclude today, just one more reminder that we'll be offering a series of online talks, conferences, lectures, however you like to phrase the word. In the coming, the first one will be in a short period of time in September. The 14th of my faithful and trusty producer here has just reminded me that it'll be on the 14th of September, the first one, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If that time is not convenient, we're going to archive it for a little while online, so that even if you can't be there live, which we hope you can be, you'll be able to benefit from it by watching it later. But we hope you'll be able to join us live, because there'll be a time at the end to answer your questions about the topics. We'll be doing 4 Franciscan topics about Francis of Assisi over these next 4 months to come. Those of you who are connected to us through social media or our Companions of St. Anthony emails should be getting notifications about this very shortly, if not by the time you see this. And it'll show you how to sign up and register. So we hope that you'll be able to join us for that. So with that said, peace and good from the shrine here. Always know that you are all our companions, and we're holding you in prayer each day here for God's blessings, for God's grace, for God's faith for you. Peace and good.